Match 25, Ultraman and Jet Jaguar vs. Monster X by Thomas Singleton. Japan had seen its fair share of bloodshed. It was in these lands that the samurai pledged their sword to the emperor. It was these lands that spawned the magnificent, unmerciful army at the dawn of the 20th century. It was in these lands that once harbored giants unlike any other. Untold legends emanated from all corners of the great nation. Rumors flourished in all shapes and sizes, issuing the existence of an entity of supernatural or demonic origins. But these ancient tales had all but been forgotten until the advent of the Kaiju. These walking typhoons were engines of despair, meant only to tarnish the lands of man and remind them how small they were. Yet it was Japan that received the brunt of these attacks. Its cities were always left in shambles. Millions of lives had been lost. In spite of its disasters, the support of the United Nations and the dedication of its people helped Japan's economy rebuild itself, stronger than ever. Great cities that had been demolished by these nightmarish behemoths were reconstructed. Opportunities were made, allowing its resilient citizens to reach out and succeed in places nobody else could. In Nagoya, a brilliant scientist took advantage of these opportunities and designed a robot. Only unlike any other robot, this one possessed a limited form of artificial intelligence. It was granted the chance to learn from its mistakes and adapt. Combined with the sophisticated technology that gave it life, the robot would revolutionize the world. It would be the first of many that would help mold a new future for mankind. And yet, a sudden illness prevented its creator from revealing its existence. Emotions that were once non-existent to it suddenly materialized. Since then, it had secretly sought to carry out its inventor's wishes. It upgraded its programming, expanding its abilities and intellect, but it had no name, no clear identity. To change this, the robot recalled the earlier days of its construction, how its inventor cited his favorite machine and animal. It recalled how a jet always captivated its inventor. To the deceased human, a jet helped accelerate his ambitions, for no matter the stipulations, it always managed to soar high above the clouds. And then there was the inventor's favorite animal, the jaguar, a lone hunter that prowled the underbrush of South America. In a weird way, the jaguar's lonely path and ferocious ambition was a reflection of the inventor's life. These circumstances led to the robot's identity, Jet Jaguar. Soon, Jet Jaguar would reveal its existence to the planet and prove that its inventor's death was not in vain. The mammoth skyscrapers of Tokyo glinted in the morning light. White clouds hung over the great metropolis. An azure sky could be seen beyond the clouds. In the eastern skies, the sun extended its shimmering reach. Beyond the city's boundaries, the large mass of the Pacific Ocean basked in the sunshine. But the citizens of Tokyo did not share nature's beautiful complexion. Satellites stationed in Earth's orbit recently spotted an object in space. Its trajectory would allow it to bypass the planet's ozone and fall directly into the heart of the ocean. 30 miles away from Japan. Fear consumed the minds of every man, woman, and child in the region. They had survived natural disasters before, yet they never faced anything like this. What if the estimations were wrong? What if the object crash-landed into the city? The damage would be astronomical. The loss of life would be devastating. How could Japan's economy still operate if its capital is wiped off the face of the planet?
Sendai did fine.
Right. Pass.
These speculations and more led to chaos. Thousands of people clogged the streets, anxious to avoid the answer. Evacuations would have occurred weeks before, yet the object was spotted only days ago. It was impossible to evacuate the entire city, let alone the coast, but it didn't stop people from trying. In the distance, a burning object harpooned the clouds. It fell from the heavens, emitting an orangish-reddish aura. The intensity of its radiance blotted out the trail of black smoke left in its wake. It was as if the sky comprised of a second sun. Only the light faintly disappeared as it sailed into the ocean. Within seconds, its burning mass reached the bottom and made impact. The resulting explosion was immense. Light brighter than a nuclear explosion ascended into the sky. Shockwaves forged a large mass of water to defy gravity. In unison, the boiling water rose up and formed a moving wall. It departed on a collision course for Tokyo. Emergency sirens wailed out amid the jam-packed streets. It was unnecessary. The screeching sound was not required to alert the masses of the imminent danger. Many believed that death was near. And yet, despite the odds, the people continued to flee. The urge to survive outweighed the tingling fear. At the top of Tokyo Tower, a brave reporter and his cameraman served as the eyes and ears for the rest of the world. The reporter intended to make a statement, but the distant impacts and violent tremors throughout the region. Even Tokyo Tower wobbled in its stead. The metallic beam struggled to keep the structure stable, but the impact had disabled all forms of communication. A global audience was left pondering the fate of the most technologically advanced city on Earth. As the cameraman tried to get the feedback, the reporter leaned over the rail, faintly spotting an aberration beyond the city limits. His eyes squinted, focusing on the strange phenomenon. After a brief pause, the reporter's eyes widened in shock. Horror comprised the reporter's visage. His mind accessed its memory banks, recollecting one of his earlier assignments. Months before, the station had sent him down south, where he witnessed the tsunami, up close and personal. The reminiscence of a large mass of water sucking up helpless people flashed before his eyes. He nervously tapped his cameraman's shoulder. Fearlessly, the cameraman kept calm and pointed the camera. He wasn't recording live, but it didn't stop him from capturing the unbelievable spectacle. It happened in a split second. Millions of gallons of water slammed into the city's edges. Skyscrapers specifically built to withstand earthquakes remained solid, yet the windows were instantly shattered. Waves of water flooded the buildings, wiping it clean. On the streets, abandoned cars, buses, and innocent people were swept away. Those lucky enough to be stranded on rooftops watched helplessly as their city became an extension of the ocean. Again, why does everyone just get to the top of the buildings? It seems like there's plenty of them surviving. I'm just saying. Miles away, a lone figure hovered above the churning waters. In recent weeks, he had been following the object, praying he could stop it before it reached Earth. But alas, he had failed, and now the planet was in great peril. Ultraman squeezed his fists, contemplating the future. Light glinted off his silvery armor. Crimson strands laced portions off his body. His round-shaped eyes sparkled with benignity, yes. Attached to his chest was a pearl, the source of his great power. But could he even be powerful enough to defeat his assigned target? Beneath the boiling waves, an abomination of life was manifesting. Its demonic birth bleached the waters into an inky black facade. Ultraman gaped closely, spotting 6 red glowing eyes. It wouldn't be long until the beast was ready to wage war upon life itself. But a sudden thought occurred to the humanoid giant. What if the demon wasn't strong enough yet? He had to take the risk. For the sake of the planet, Ultraman was forced to take offensive action. As he formed the shape of a cross with his hands, energy was channeled directly to his vertical palm. Without further delay, destructive energy shot out, striking the churning waters below. An underwater explosion shook the seas. It was then that a horrible, gut-wrenching cry rattled from beneath the water. It was too late. The creature was surfacing. Pass.
Hold on. Ultraman recognized its hideous features. It had a humanoid posture, but the similarities between it and a human ended there. A skeletal carapace covered portions of its body. Bony skewers jutted out of its shoulder and backside. Does it mean its butt or its back?
Dig blasted.
A row of 2 horns pointed out of its head. Its black flesh interlaced its bulky arms, legs, and abdomen. Its tail ended in 2 separate tips that flailed wildly. 6 red eyes. You mentioned the 6 red eyes already. Glowered out of their sockets, focusing on Ultraman.
That's a little soon.
A pair of eyes was stationed on each of its shoulders. The other pair was tucked inside its face. As its mouth parted, revealing the seemingly bottomless pit of its throat, a terrifying roar vibrated the sky. Monster X was ready to fight. The air had been warped around its grotesque shape. The scourge of the stars was able to manipulate the gravity, binding it to its will. Binding it? What? Don't you mean bending it? But the extent of its gravitational power was limited. Knowing this, Monster X revealed its other abilities. Bolt of light, guided by gravity. Okay, whatever. Rippled out of its 6 eyes. The 6 projectiles. Light is not solid. Stabbed into the. However, of course, Ultraman is a being of light, so. I guess
Prometheans of Halo would like to argue with you on that one, sir.
Hold on, my eye is itching. Stabbed into the unsuspecting Ultraman, sculling its glossy armor. Though the pain was excruciating, Ultraman carried a heavy burden, one that outweighed the damage. Ultraman swiftly flew it directly at Monster X, eager to test it in a physical confrontation. Toxic smoke escaped Monster X's jaws, robbing the air of its oxygen. It had secretly sought such an encounter. Now Ultraman would pay the price. Ow, my eye, goddamn. Ultraman's closed fists hurtled at Monster X, but each one was caught by the alien's hands. Feeling the abominable strength of his foe, Ultraman kicked Monster X's cage, hoping to find a weakness, but the thickness of Monster X's armor left Ultraman kicks futile. In retaliation, Monster X released one of Ultraman's fists, allowing it to take a swipe at the gigantic hero. Monster X's claw slashed Ultraman's chest, cutting ribbons of armor out from its foundations. A loud yelp escaped Ultraman's hollow mouth. Monster X carefully observed the wound it had dealt. Its nostrils caught a familiar scent. As red blood seeped out of Ultraman's wound, a roar of satisfaction rumbled out of Monster X's maw. Shit. Desperate, Ultraman held up his right hand, counting the sunlight to help forge a spinning energetic disc. Ultraman chucked the energetic disc across Monster X's face, barely puncturing its armor. Steam hissed out of the newly made scar, engraved upon Monster X's face. It had been injured. Yes.
Monster X probed the wound, wondering if it was really there. As its fingers caressed the tiny fissures on its visage, Monster X released a chaotic roar. In all the years of its planetary invasions, it had never been wounded. Now a wave of vengeance took possession of this engine of annihilation. Without a shred of mercy, Monster X plowed its fist into Ultraman's face. The sheer concussive force knocked Ultraman out of the air and sent him reeling into the ocean. A large splash vibrated the watery surface. Beneath its murky exterior, there was no sign of Ultraman. Victorious, Monster X spotted Tokyo in the distance. It sensed millions of people, utterly helpless. A surge of excitement propelled Monster X towards the metropolis. Thousands had already...
Hold on. Did they even evacuate this city? I'm seeing millions after the water hit? I mean, dear God, Japan, get it together on evacuation services.
Well, to be fair, Tokyo's a huge place. It'd take a while to get everyone out. Even if you were notified weeks ahead of time, it'd take a while. So...
Touché.
Thousands had already lost their lives in the flood, but could the survivors withstand the murderous ambitions of this demon from the stars? Lost in the depths of the Pacific, Ultraman's gleaming eyes served as the only source of light.
Let's go, sorry.
Wait, what? Oh, you gotta go? Or...
Okay, yeah, he had to go. Okay, then it was two.
Well, that was Banner, everyone. Give it up to Banner, as that'll probably be about the only part he's gonna read. I mean, unless he comes back, then that's fine, but... His life force was rapidly diminishing. Even a brief encounter against Monster X took its toll. Never before had Ultraman fought such a diabolical creature. He had fought many kaiju in the past, and always emerged victorious. Either he'd have to contact his intergalactic family for assistance or turn to Earth's inhabitants. He knew there were powerful forces lurking in all corners of the world. In fact, Earth was very famous for its mighty kaiju. When its citizens were oblivious to the existence of other intelligent life forms in the universe, it was not the case the other way around. Ultraman would have to seek terrestrial assistance, but time did not favor the celestial warrior. The fate of a city and its inhabitants hung over his shoulders. While he preferred the chance to rejuvenate his strength, Ultraman knew he was needed. An azure-hued glow sparked out of the pearl. It summoned the last bit of energy he had left, but was it enough? Atop the tilted Tokyo Tower, the reporter nursed the bleeding cut on his forehead. The galloping waters had nearly demolished the marvelous structure, yet its sturdy shape survived. But the reporter and his cameraman experienced difficulty. Had it not been for the protective railing, the cameraman would have unwillingly taken a one-way ticket to a watery grave. Fate intervened for both of them, and now they were ready to address a worried world. A dark shadow disrupted their train of thought. An ominous beast made its presence known, just as the cameraman started recording. Nobody was fooled. Monster X's malevolent appearance furnished its desires. Not that it had any intention of hiding it in the first place. In the past, Monster X found that whenever its victims experienced that one state of emotion known as fear, it made the kill all the more sweeter. It was relieved to learn that these primitive Earthlings were capable of building large structures. Demolishing them brought great pleasure. Monster X's malicious jaws issued a horrifying roar. As sunlight glistened off the flooded streets of Tokyo, Monster X made landfall. It embedded its feet in the watery streets, forcing water to rise above its waist. Strangely, the light that cradled the sky faded. An unexpected state of twilight enveloped Tokyo. It was as if light itself couldn't shed upon this walking nightmare. Ruby red eyes gazed at the nearest skyscraper. Demonic power crackled within. Bolts of gravitational light flared forth. Walls were instantly torn to shreds. Windows that were not shattered by the thrashing waters melted. The heart of the skyscrapers had been obliterated. Broken shards poured out of its wrecked husk, pelting the flooded streets. Eventually, the entire upper half of the skyscraper broke away. Monster X howled in delight. These structures were easier to destroy than it originally thought. At this rate, the entire city, no, the world, would become a smoldering graveyard in no time. A reflection on the irrigated surface showed Monster X discharging another barrage of gravity bolts. Its destructive campaign did not go unnoticed. Japanese self-defense force had been ordered to help find refugees. It was a joint task accompanied by other countries, but nobody had anticipated the arrival of a kaiju. Retaliation would have proven impossible had the political parties of the nation triumphed, but the figureheads of the military were dedicated to persevering what lives Tokyo had left. And yet, a quagmire stood before the Japanese forces. Launching an attack of any kind took time, money, and manpower. Monster X wasn't going to wait. Pass.
The kaiju had a twisted strategy. At times, it would simply demolish buildings by using its gravity bolts, but when it tore a building apart with its bare hands, shocked onlookers went pale. Gigantic creatures like Godzilla, King Kong, and Rodan destroyed buildings only if it was in their way. Monster X, however, purposefully sought them out for the insidious joy of dismantling it. Thick smoke draped a portion of the city, robbing its occupants of the opportunity to see their destroyer. Only violent ripples in the corpse-infested waters managed to warn them of Monster X's whereabouts. No, the 50-meter tall monster wouldn't be that giveaway.
Yeah.
Those that had managed to climb to the rooftops to see Monster X in the flesh wished they had not. Not only did they find the kaiju unappealing, but the moment they were spotted, Monster X attacked them directly without restraint. For over 40 minutes, Monster X cut a swath of destruction. A trail of rubble was left clogging the murky roads. To the kaiju, the flood was only high enough to soak its ankles. As it treaded toward the nearest skyscraper, its bulk fractured the underground pipes. This process had been frequently occurring ever since its initial assault. Contaminated liquids tainted the water, poisoning anyone who touched it. Suddenly, a strange sound rattled the sky. Monster X probed the heavens, spotting a glittery object. Its aerial mass resembled that of a humanoid. Only its silver skin glinted in the fading sunlight. Up close, its artificial head strangely curved upwards, mimicking that of the tip of a sharp instrument. Multi-faced colors coated its robotic exterior, giving it a non-threatening appeal. Its dark eye sockets possessed no lens of any kind, but it was not without the ability to see. Monster X considered Jet Jaguar with mixed reactions. At first, it thought Ultraman had returned from the dead, which would have given Monster X the benefit of killing him again. This new foe, however, seemed fragile. If it broke easily, no fun could be had. No, wait, did I skip? Oh, no. Now that he thought about it, having a playmate to grapple with was refreshing. Monster X contemplated the thought of chucking the giant robot into a nearby hospital. In fact, a duel between the two titans would inflict more collateral damage than one could hope to accomplish alone. Like Ultraman, Jet Jaguar did not need a propulsion to fly. The full extent of his abilities would no doubt stun Monster X and its vast global audience. But as Jet Jaguar slowly descended from the sky, its artificial mind recalled its prime objective. It programmed itself to depart its secret headquarters, fly over to Tokyo, slay Monster X, and prove to the entire world that its inventor was a genius, achieving a place in the hearts of the people who was also a remnant of its objective. Jet Jaguar's descent made the waters spawn miniature waves. Empty eyes looked upon Monster X. The Jet Jaguar's sensors scanned every inch of the demon, searching for a weakness. It closed in on the cut that compromised Monster X's face. The injury was recently sustained. Other than the cut, no other weaknesses could be located. Jet Jaguar's sophisticated sensors were able to determine the density of Monster X's carapace. Only a high-powered energy weapon stood a chance at breaching it. Jet Jaguar possessed no offensive attacks of any kind. A strategy had been formulated, but it was too risky. A physical confrontation would have to suffice. Monster X was the first to make a move. Strands of gravitational light departed Monster X's eyes, flittering past Jet Jaguar's armor. The gravity bolts heralded a combination of burning energy and concussive force. Its impact completely knocked Jet Jaguar off its feet. Sparks sizzled out of its penetrated wound. Its computerized innards had been vaporized. Shocked onlookers helplessly watched on as Jet Jaguar sunk beneath the flooded streets of Tokyo in ankle-deep water. Monster X howled maniacally. This new opponent was easier than the first that denied it, but it suddenly dawned on the bloodthirsty that if its new playmate was already destroyed, then its dismantling of Tokyo would become another boring conquest. Determined, Monster X waded to where Jet Jaguar had fallen. The murky waters repelled Monster X from spotting its enemy's corpse. Monster X dipped his hands into the water, touching only the solid road beneath. Jet Jaguar jumped on Monster X from behind, wrapping its arm around the gruesome creature's throat. A surprised grunt screeched out of Monster X's maw. It thrashed around, hoping to dislodge its unwanted passenger, but Jet Jaguar tightened its grip, applying enough strength to completely cut off the airflow to Monster X's lungs. Only it soon became apparent that Monster X didn't need oxygen to operate. Jet Jaguar felt Monster X's clasp its demented claws around the robot's arms. With unbelievable strength, Monster X pulled Jet Jaguar off its backside and hurled it into the closest building. Jet Jaguar mass flattened the structure and those who were hiding in it. Monster X proceeded to unmercifully rupture Jet Jaguar's outer hull with a barrage of claw swipes. Sirens sounded off, alerting Jet Jaguar of the situation it was in. Jet Jaguar tried shielding itself with its arms, but Monster X's fists nearly shattered them. The robot had calculated that a few more devastating hits would bring about its demise. This alien's fiendish power forced Jet Jaguar to play all its cards. Both of Jet Jaguar's hands had managed to halt one of Monster X's fists. Tendrils of golden light emitted out of Monster X's ruby orbs. It heralded the departure of its deadliest weapon. Jet Jaguar would have to act quickly. In a matter of seconds, Jet Jaguar activated what it had up to that point never attempted to do. Jet Jaguar was a robot that had absolute control over its robotic body. Its inventors sought to grant Jet Jaguar the ability to control its molecular structure. For years, Jet Jaguar had secretly been amassing its knowledge. Its encyclopedic knowledge rivaled that of the greatest minds the world had ever known. And yet, even the robot world was a skeptic. Until now. Pass.
One, I can never see backside the same way again. Thank you, Banner. Two, compared to what we see in 150, and this is a spoiler, I prefer this explanation, and I think it's much more realistic.
So, what do you mean?
150, you remember how he was like made up of like nanomachines and they
oh
with Randy.
God,
yeah,
yes.
Yes,
like
this is pretty much my headcanon explanation here, that he's pretty much able to control himself on a molecular level, which I'll take.
Yes, or he can just he can control his body. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Right. It just seems much more feasible and more in character compared to what we get in 150. But again, that will be for another day. Unless you've read the match yourself, then you understand what I'm referencing. Anyway, continuing on. The polarity of Jet Jaguar's mass greatly increased. Jet Jaguar's fingers rapidly extended. Its inner circuitry made the preparations necessary to meet these erratic changes. Monster X, surprised by the sudden occurrence, backed away. Its demonic blue eyes curiously watched Jet Jaguar grow twice its original size. At that point, Monster X stood up to Jet Jaguar's waist. Ooh boy. Jet Jaguar caught a glimpse of its reflection in the glassy exterior of a skyscraper. It was such an unprecedented event. Atop Tokyo Tower, the reporter excitedly spoke into his microphone, explaining to his global audience without the robot's sudden move. Or about the robot's sudden move, I bet. The cameraman captured every single second of this amazing battle. While both teams were hoping that Monster X would have retreated, it was not the case. Monster X had never laid eyes on an entity larger than itself. The idea of retreating was a distant alternative in the abysmal mind of the alien. Instead, Monster X deemed Jet Jaguar a greater challenge. Bolts of gravitational light lanced out of its crimson eyes. Jet Jaguar shielded itself with its massive wrist. Monster X's gravity bolts ravaged the massive arm. It could not amputate it, but the destructive energies were able to splinter its metallic properties. Jet Jaguar lost all sensation in its wrist. It fell to its side, dangling gently. A shower of sparks sprayed out of the injured arm. Even though the damage was immense, Jet Jaguar considered it a minor setback. In retaliation, the towering robot caught Monster X completely off guard. Jet Jaguar lunged forward, ramming Monster X with its shoulder. The physical force sent Monster X reeling to the diluted streets. A large splash accompanied Monster X's descent into the water, but the battle was not over. Excuse me. Monster X rose out of the contaminated waters. Rage invoked its unfathomable wrath. Gravitational light eagerly fluctuated out of its demonic eyes. The destructive energies warped the gravity of the area, forcing the water to rise into thin air. But building debris was randomly dispersed in all directions. The demonic titan from the stars had searched the cosmos for a worthy challenger, but when an unworthy speck manages to topple its esteemed majesty, it received only death. Jet Jaguar calculated its next action, but not even its advanced cybernetic mind could think fast enough to dodge Monster X's wrath. Bolts of gravitational light streaked forth and harpooned Jet Jaguar's metallic sternum. Unlike its previous attacks, Monster X consistently fired a chaotic beam of force that tore the watery ground beneath it to shreds. Not even the larger Jet Jaguar could withstand the intensity of Monster X's power. The robot was helplessly blasted backwards, forcing its feet to engrave trenches in the submerged streets. It was a futile attempt to gain enough leverage to retain ground, but Jet Jaguar felt the mass of a skyscraper shatter against its back. Steel, glass, and granite instantly fell apart. Jet Jaguar had completely demolished a skyscraper within a second, and its unwanted ride wasn't even over. Yet another skyscraper met its end by the reluctant robot. Then another was reduced to rubble. Finally, Monster X's demonic power faded and relinquished its hold over Jet Jaguar. The damaged robot bypassed the flooded streets and as it fell into the earth. Alarm systems blared within the cerebral cortex of Jet Jaguar's artificial mind. Jet Jaguar's sturdy armor prevented Monster X's gravity beams from punching a hole through its body, but it had penetrated its chest and fried the internal circuitry. Repairs could be made, but it would take time. Time was not a luxury Monster X granted. Pass.
Monster X stampeded across the district. Violent ripples unraveled the waters with every step Monster X made. Buildings struggled to stand, but it was Jet Jaguar that was struggling to live. It knew that if Monster X scored another fatal blow, its journey at bringing greatness to its inventor and finding its place in the circle of life would be over. Instinctively, a trait which baffled Jet Jaguar's calculated thought process, the robot sprinted away. Monster X increased its speed. The space between the two giants decreased. Jet Jaguar realized its increased size was slowing it down. With every running step the giant machine took, the water kicked up high above its head. Cracks splintered the unseen earth, unloosening the grip nearby buildings had. This action only intensified as Monster X grew closer. It was then that Jet Jaguar was on a direct collision course for a hotel. It quickly scanned the structure, searching for life. It detected several humans, but there was not enough time to divert its direction. Sacrifices would have to be made. Monster X thrusted its claw forward, intent on shattering Jet Jaguar's back. But Jet Jaguar instantly shrunk its size. Monster X's claw cleaved only a mirage of what was no longer there. A human-sized Jet Jaguar flew straight into the hotel. Monster X immediately spotted the smaller foe and reacted. As Jet Jaguar flew through a window and down a barren hallway, a monstrous hand dismantled the walls behind it. Only the hand did not postpone its demolishing process. Instead, it trailed Jet Jaguar, hoping to catch it in the palm and crush it utterly. Fragments of splintered granite and glass accompanied the devilish claw, but Jet Jaguar flew fast enough to fly out the other side of the hotel, unscathed. Upon escaping the structure, Jet Jaguar rapidly lunged upwards, while increasing its size. Jet Jaguar had reached its normal Titanic size, only a few seconds to spare. It decisively placed its only functioning hand on the hotel's rooftop, flipped backwards, and completely evaded Monster X from noticing its acrobatic stunt. While Monster X was busy tearing the heart of the hotel apart, Jet Jaguar made its presence known. After landing behind Monster X, Jet Jaguar quickly clasped its hand on the alien's unarmored elbow. All power was diverted to Jet Jaguar's single working arm. Before Monster X could react, Jet Jaguar applied enough pressure to break Monster X's bulky appendage. An unfamiliar emotion invaded the consciousness of the demonic alien. It was an emotion that it enjoyed inflicting upon others, but never felt. Even when Ultraman slashed its face, it couldn't feel the damage that had been dealt. It was wounded, yet the pain that normally accompanied injuries did not follow. Monster X was stunned. Jet Jaguar backed away, expecting a brutal counterattack, but it was not given. Monster X merely turned around and inspected its lifeless arm. It then gazed at Jet Jaguar, realizing it too had a severed arm. What should have been a painful howl was in fact a fiendish laugh. Jet Jaguar tilted its head in surprise. It did not expect to hear laughter. In all the years of wretched existence, who could have predicted that when Monster X felt pain for the first time it would laugh? And what a horrible laugh it was. It was a sound that could only be described as the soothing lullaby of death incarnate. A chorus of dying jackals, melded with crackling crows, shaped the disturbing laughter of Monster X. Only a demon could laugh with such a maniacal tone. Jet Jaguar watched in complete state of shock as Monster X reached for its broken arm and snapped it back into place. The skeletal joints immediately connected and regenerated the damage. Monster X lashed out, grazing Jet Jaguar's face with the swipe of its claw. Jet Jaguar's toppling mass was caught by a skyscraper. It shook loose, but it supported the clinging robot. Jet Jaguar scanned the building, sensing thousands of refugees. These people had nowhere else to go. Before Jet Jaguar could react, it detected a disturbance in the air. Gravity bolts spewed forth, bombarding Jet Jaguar. Jet Jaguar could have avoided the projectiles, but it would have destroyed the building and its inhabitants. Chunks of metal were flayed from its foundations. Jet Jaguar released a digitized groan. Not even its dense armor could take any more of this punishment. Monster X repeatedly fired its gravity bolts. Every impact cost Jet Jaguar a piece of its body. From the dusty laboratory of its inventor it had come. For so long it yearned to be a hero. It never imagined that the price to pay would be its own existence. Yet sure enough, it was a price Jet Jaguar accepted. But it was not to be. Ultraman blindsided Monster X by hurtling its feet into the demon's skull. Not even Monster X could remain upright from such an impact. Monster X once again felt the damp depths of the flooded city. Its putrid smell failed to stir the beast. But the fact it had been physically dominated erased the pleasure it felt. Instead, Monster X leaped out of the water and levitated in midair. It spotted Ultraman standing between it and the wounded Jet Jaguar. Chasms of light sparkled wildly around Ultraman's pearl. An inner light burned brightly, rivaling the intensity of the sun. Such power can only be compared to that of a wielder of divinity. Monster X scowled bitterly at its resurrected adversary. If it represented the darkness of life, it could proudly It proudly accepted such a token of honor. Monster X harbored no morality, not even to its fellow comrades of bloodshed. It killed because it yearned for the chance to spill blood, but be it innocent or tainted. Jet Jaguar scanned the brave warrior that risked his own life to save its own. Common sense allowed it to perceive Ultraman as an ally. Jet Jaguar scanners detected great power emanating from Ultraman. It was prelude to Ultraman's offensive strike. Jet Jaguar struggled to rise, eager to assist his comrade in battle. Its right arm hung uselessly at its side. Sparks and smoke flowed out of its wounds. Monster X's power should have mutilated the robot, yet it still stood, fully operational. It had the option to increase its size and mass. In doing so, its strength would have at least rivaled the intergalactic demon, but exchanging speed for strength was not a wise move. Jet Jaguar's lifeless arm could vouch for that. It appeared that an alliance was a necessity. Pass.
Ultraman peered at Monster X, knowing that the spawn of perdition wouldn't hesitate to attack any longer. To prevent such an action, Ultraman crossed his arms and had his right arm placed in a vertical position. Celestial energy spewed out of Ultraman's vertically shaped hand, carbonizing Monster X's grotesque head. An amalgam of sparks and light engulfed Monster X's upper body, yet it silently stood, taking the full fury of Ultraman's onslaught. Monster X indulged in Ultraman's pity games long enough. Both of gravitational light rapidly flowed into Ultraman. Multiple explosions ruptured Ultraman's armored figure, bringing him to his knees. Ultraman sprinted at its downed foe, forcing the water to part in its wake. But before Ultraman could be crushed, Jet Jaguar leaped in between them and blindsided the alien by plowing its metallic gauntlet straight into Monster X's lower jaw. Not even Monster X was able to remain standing. The impact between Jet Jaguar's fists colliding with Monster X unleashed a shockwave that shattered any window within a 4-mile radius. Even the lens of the camera cracked. The live feed was not disconnected, however. As the unfolding battle continued, the reporter informed the whole world of the unsaid alliance between the giant robot and the humanoid fighter. Just then, he received a report about the GSDF preparing to launch a missile strike on the alien creature recently identified as Monster X for strict military purposes. Jet Jaguar jumped on top of Monster X and pounded its submerged visage with a volley of fists. With every punch, gouts of water sprayed upwards. Monster X's fiendish claws shot out, impaling Jet Jaguar's sternum. Jet Jaguar ceased its physical assault. It watched helplessly as the murky waters cracked with a golden hue glow. Gravity bolts ensnared the wounded robot and sent it reeling into the closest building. Monster X levitated out of the water, instinctively drawn to Jet Jaguar. It reached out, determined to crush its mechanical skull with its bare hand. As it reached out, Ultraman chucked a shimmering shuriken into Monster X's arm. It struck in the area where Monster X's skeletal carapace was not present. Holy energy splintered Monster X's filthy flesh. It minced its elbow joint, completely robbing it of all sensation. Black blood and mangled muscles spurted out of the ravaged arm. Indescribable pain hollowed out Monster X's jaws. At long last, this wretched beast discovered the true purpose of pain, and it felt no pleasure of any kind. Ultraman remedied the situation. He folded his left arm into a horizontal position. Then he vertically placed his right arm up behind it. Celestial light departed his vertical hand and tore into Monster X's exposed injury. It slivered the demon's arm, ripping it from its foundations. Monster X's severed arm dropped into the filthy waters, further tainting its makeup. Monster X roared in frustration as it realized it had one arm left. The fact that it could not move that arm made the situation worse. It nonetheless focused its attention solely on Ultraman. Strands of golden light bolted out of Monster X's eyes, delivering enough concussive force to topple Ultraman. Ultraman's fallen body fell upon an abandoned hotel. Jet Jaguar dazedly watched Monster X levitate out of the water. With its arms disabled, Monster X couldn't resort to a physical confrontation. It only had its projectile at its disposal, and didn't mind resorting to such an endeavor. Jet Jaguar analyzed its condition. If Monster X scored another direct hit, Jet Jaguar would become obsolete permanently. The robot configured the mostly suitable strategy. It only involved Jet Jaguar retreating, leaving Ultraman to fight alone. If it chose such an undertaking, Jet Jaguar's longing to bring honor to the memory of its inventor would never come to pass. Choosing to ratify its first strategy, Jet Jaguar personally selected an alternative. Streaks of shimmering gravity ruptured Ultraman's body. A red blinking light emitted from Ultraman's pearl, signifying the decline of his life force. Acknowledging this fact, Monster X took the necessary step to continue its onslaught. Golden bolts ravaged Ultraman, engraving smoldering holes in his racked frame. In areas not covered by water, military vehicles moved into position. Man, that must have been fun. Large metallic tubes, each harboring ballistic missiles, were strapped on top. Targeting computers focused on Monster X, awaiting confirmation from its human tacticians to fire. Jet Jaguar rapidly shrunk its size. It had no intentions to see Ultraman die this day. After shrinking down to the size of a small bus, Jet Jaguar took flight, propelling itself into Monster X's fearsome jaws. But Jet Jaguar's selfless act did not go unnoticed. Monster X ceased torturing Ultraman, preferring to focus on the robot. It concentrated on Jet Jaguar's small size, readying its malevolent power. A command was given. Atop Tokyo Tower, the reporter and his cameraman heard a distant sound. It sounded like multiple gunshots, albeit louder. Monster X paid no heed to the rattling sound. It only desired Jet Jaguar's destruction, but its lust for death blinded it from humanity's intervention. Dozens of missiles sped closer to Monster X, planting their metallic tips into Monster X's armored hide. Balls of fire consumed multiple areas of Monster X's figure. These conventional weapons failed to harm the demon, but the hypnotic glows of the explosions helped conceal Jet Jaguar as he entered Monster X's mouth undetected. It proceeded to go down Monster X's throat, entering its sternum. Jet Jaguar was immune to the putrid smell, but the black fluids clogging its mechanical joints and staining... Hang on, let me reread that again. But the black fluids clogging its mechanical joints and staining its paint spoke louder than words. A popular phrase among mankind polarized the conception that beauty was in the inside, not the outside. For Monster X, beauty was non-existent in both ways. Monster X growled erratically, sensing the intruder that invaded its insides. Ultraman watched on, recognizing Jet Jaguar's intent, while also praying Monster X did not renew its attacks on him or anyone else. From within, Jet Jaguar's size increased exponentially. It collapsed Monster X's ribcage, holding on tight. As Jet Jaguar grew bigger, its space became smaller. Monster X's aggravating roar marked the beginning of the end. It felt its organs being pushed against its bones. Arteries were punctured, causing internal bleeding. Its black heart had been severed. Soon the brain could no longer relay commands to the body. Monster X's cells could not repair the damage fast enough. Bones tore out Monster X's flesh. Monster X writhed in pain, seeking death. Only in death would this pain stop. Jet Jaguar's pointed head broke out of Monster X's chest. In a savage display of strength, Jet Jaguar extended its arms and legs, rendering Monster X in half. Both segregated parts fell into the contaminated waters, warping it with its putrid blood and vile makeup. Jet Jaguar landed next to Ultraman. In unison, both examined Monster X's torn configuration, knowing victory was at hand. Jet Jaguar offered the only functioning hand it had. After a slight pause, Ultraman grabbed it, cementing their newfound friendship. In this land, new opportunities were being made every day, but on the beginning of this day, two foreigners revealed themselves to the world. At the end of the day, they emerged as heroes. Winner, Ultraman, and Jet Jaguar. Huh. I thought that would take a lot longer to read. Great shot.
Oh, sorry, I had my mic muted. But no, that was an awesome match.
Yeah, I know that. I feel like
I personally like the ending.
right. I mean, I was kind of like the moment I see Red, I was like, oh, Jet Jaguar is gonna fly into Monster X's mouth. It's like I know where this is going. It's never a bad thing to do per se, as it is a very good move to use. That's all I can say. But yeah, I was actually kind of surprised.
It's a attack where he has no armor.
Right. Yeah, pretty much just come from the inside. But yeah, I was actually kind of shocked that I thought Ultraman was a lot more relevant in this. Like it was mostly Jet Jaguar versus Monster X, just Ultraman there at the beginning, kind of pops up at the end. I just kind of find that interesting.
No, yeah, I was actually gonna make the same comment. Where it's really Jet Jaguar's match and Monster X's match,
right.
And it's really Ultraman is kind of just there to act as like the. I mean, he really didn't even have to be there because the way they end him, the humanity is the one that gives Jet Jaguar the edge. So this could have really been just Jet Jaguar versus Monster X.
Right. I mean, Ultraman is a nice treat, and to be fair, this is his first appearance in the KWC too, along with Jet and Monster X. So it works. So nothing. Yeah, I feel like this is the match that Godzilla vs. Gamera should have been, where it's nice and long, decently paced. It could get pretty intense. It just felt like there was a lot more at stake here compared to Godzilla vs. Gamera. I don't know, Godzilla vs. Gamera felt very amateurish, now thinking about it, and, being filled with unintentional innuendos, but just listen to that one for that, so...
Yeah, I remember. But no, this one was pretty awesome. Again, Jet Jaguar, I like. Again, good origin. And Monster X is just downright terrifying in this, as he's just like literally laying waste to everything. So this is kind of like the setup really for him as being, oh yes, literally he destroys. Like he can take a lot of hits, he can do a lot of damage. His armor is insane, but he eventually gets put down.
Right. So yeah, this was a pretty good match, and I think this is probably, now that I think about it, this is probably where Tom's writing quality probably starts going up. Now that I think about it, because this holds like a lot of the future matches that I recall seeing out of him, just tend to be more like this. I think this might be the start of Tom's upping the quality with his matches. Well, it's not to say that he wasn't upping them beforehand, but they're getting better. Not perfect, but solid overall.
Oh yeah, the detail in this is quite amazing. I will, like, some negatives I will have is it feels like the camera guy kind of just got left out of, basically got, just punted for nothing. Like, he really doesn't contribute too much to the story other than, like, broadcasting to the world. Right.
I think it was just very much, he was just meant there to broadcast things. And while it would have been nice to have him more involved, you kind of get the idea that he wasn't really important just outside of the fact that the whole world's seeing this right now.
Yeah, and the other note I have is, when it comes to the human and when it comes to that, Ultraman, I'd say it's a little lesser. But if you're looking for a match that has a fantastic Jet Jaguar and Monster X battles, then this is definitely it.
Yeah, this definitely delivers from the Jet Jaguar versus Monster X angle. Not really so much the Ultraman Monster X angle, but I mean, hey, Ultraman was just kind of like a nice touch, so not that I mind.
Yeah, touche. Well, I guess we'll see you guys next time for match 26.
That's my job to do the outros. Was Ultraman and Jet Jaguar versus Monster X. And we will see you guys for match 26. Until then.
Later, guys.